In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:1. Every tree, every river, every living creature was brought into existence by his word. And then he made mankind. From the dust of the ground, he formed Adam and breathed into him the breath of life. Genesis 2:7. Adam was different from all other creatures. He bore the image of God. He was made for communion with him. Yet Adam was alone. Seeing this, God caused a deep sleep to come over him. From his side, he took a rib and formed Eve, a helper, suitable for him. Genesis 2:21-22. When Adam saw her, joy filled his heart. Out of joy, he said, "At last! This is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." Genesis 2:23. They were placed in the Garden of Eden, a paradise beyond imagination. Every tree was pleasing to the eye and good for food. And at the centre stood two special trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Genesis 2:9. God gave them one command. "You may eat freely from any tree in the garden, but do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for if you do, you will surely die." Genesis 2:16-17. It was a test of trust. Would they obey, or would they seek more than what was given? For a time, they obeyed, but someone was watching. Long before Adam and Eve, there was another rebellion. An angel, once magnificent and glorious, sought to overthrow God's authority. His name was Lucifer. He was created as a guardian cherub, adorned with beauty and wisdom. Ezekiel 28:12-15. But pride corrupted him. Lucifer whispered to himself, "I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High." Isaiah 14:13-14. But no one can stand against the Almighty. A great battle broke out in heaven. The archangel Michael and the faithful angels fought against Lucifer and his followers. The rebellion was crushed, and Lucifer, now called Satan, was cast down to the earth. Revelation 12:7-9. Stripped of his glory, he sought revenge. If he could not defeat God, he would corrupt his creation. He would plant doubt where there had been trust. And so, he took the form of a serpent to corrupt mankind and God's creation. The serpent was unlike any other creature. It was intelligent, persuasive, and spoke with an unsettling charm. One day, he approached Eve in the garden with a smooth and enticing voice. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Genesis 3:1. Eve, hesitant but curious. We may eat from any tree, but God said we must not eat or touch this one, or we will die. Genesis 3:2-3. Serpent, chuckling. You will not certainly die. God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like him, knowing good and evil. Genesis 3:4-5. Eve hesitated. The fruit was beautiful, desirable. A hunger stirred inside her, not for food, but for knowledge, for something more. She reached out. Her fingers brushed against the smooth skin of the fruit. She plucked it, brought it to her lips, and took a bite. Nothing happened at first. Then a rush of something unfamiliar. A flood of thoughts, emotions, doubt, fear, self-awareness. She turned and handed the fruit to Adam, who watched her with a troubled expression. But he, too, took a bite. For the first time, Adam and Eve felt something new. Shame. They looked at each other and realized their nakedness. Before, it had never mattered, but now they felt exposed, vulnerable. They scrambled to gather fig leaves, weaving them together to cover themselves. Genesis 3:7. They felt something else too, fear. The presence of God, once a source of comfort, now felt overwhelming. The serpent, victorious, watched from a distance. He slithered back into the shadows, satisfied. His deception had worked. He had planted the seed of rebellion. And now humanity had fallen. Adam and Eve moved cautiously through the garden, avoiding the places where they once walked freely. They felt distant from each other, from their Creator, from everything they had once known. Then they heard it, the sound of God's footsteps approaching. And terror filled their hearts. Adam, where are you? Genesis 3:9. Adam and Eve trembled. They had never feared his voice before. I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Genesis 3:10. God's voice was sorrowful. Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree I commanded you not to eat from? Genesis 3:11. Adam pointed to Eve. The woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate. Genesis 3:12. Eve pointed to the serpent deceived me, and I ate. But responsibility could not be shifted. The consequence was inevitable. God looked upon them, not with surprise, but with deep sorrow. He had given them everything: life, love, dominion over the earth. And they had chosen to listen to the deceiver instead. Now the consequences must come. God turns his gaze to the serpent. Because you have done this, you are cursed above all livestock and wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. Genesis 3:14. Some say the serpent had once walked upright, a majestic creature among the animals. But now it would be humbled, forever slithering on the ground. But the worst of the curse was yet to come. God declared a prophecy, one that would echo through all time. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. Genesis 3:15. This was no ordinary punishment. It was a divine promise, a prophecy of a coming Savior, one who would one day crush the serpent's power. Satan had won a battle, but the war was far from over. God turned to Eve, who lowers her head, tears spilling onto the ground. She knows what she has done, but she cannot take it back. And he said, I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor, you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. Genesis 3:16. Eve had longed for wisdom, for something more. But now her body and soul would bear the burden of suffering. Pain would accompany her greatest joy, motherhood. And the balance of their relationship would change. Adam stands silent, guilt heavy in his chest. He had been given the role of protector, yet he had stood by, silent as the deception unfolded. God said to Adam, Because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil, you will eat food from it all the days of your life. Genesis 3:17. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Genesis 3:18-19. The earth itself was cursed because of Adam's sin. No longer would food come easily. He would have to toil, sweat, and struggle. And worst of all, death. Once Adam and Eve were meant to live forever. Now their bodies would age, wither, and return to the dust. Mortality had entered the world. Though they had sinned, God did not abandon them completely. In his mercy, he clothed them. God takes animal skins and covers their nakedness, an act of both love and foreshadowing. The first sacrifice had been made to cover their shame. Genesis 3:21, a symbol of what was to come, a greater sacrifice that would one day cover all sin. And so came the banishment from Eden. God spoke with a heavy voice and sorrow. The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Genesis 3:22. In an act of finality, God placed mighty cherubim at the entrance of Eden, with a flaming sword flashing back and forth, blocking the way to the tree of life. Genesis 3:24. Adam and Eve turned and walked away. They were cast into the world, a world now filled with hardship, pain, and struggle. But hope remained. The prophecy had been spoken. One day, a Redeemer would come. One day, the serpent's power would be crushed. This is a story of the fall of Adam and Eve, a story of choice and consequence.